Welcome back, everybody. And I'd like to hand over to David Lipsey again. Thank you, David.
Jeanette, thanks so much. As we start our next session, please remember that the chat box is live and we welcome you to submit various any questions that you might have. If we have time for those, we'll get to them, but our speakers have been very generous in offering to follow up afterwards should there be questions that we don't have time to get to. Please remember that the vendor passports are active and there's lots of interesting technology to see and people to meet in the exhibition area. And immediately following this session, we have tech labs with Stencil and Media Valet, as well as panels, and we welcome and encourage your participation in those. For our next presentation, I'm delighted to introduce Kimberly Klotz from the University of Central Arkansas, where she's the Director of Marketing and the President of the Staff Senate. We know without question that digital asset management goes to work in service of the purposes of charities, academic institutions, museums, libraries, governments, and many, many other types of entities where we measure our success by the services we provide. I've been a long believer that the more we see DAM at the university and the university community in all facets, the better off that the faculty, the students, and the staff will be in doing their particular jobs. I've been delighted to have watched Kimberly's progress over these past, it's been about a year and a half or so, with a very exciting implementation, and she's here to share her thoughts with us. Kimberly, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, David. I'm excited to talk to you guys today about our implementation. We'll walk through our first year and give you an update on how we're doing right now. So first, I'd like to give you some background on our institution so you can understand our use case a little bit better. We have about 10,000 plus students, so we're a mid-sized public university in Arkansas. We have about 1,200 employees spread over 7 divisions and 7 colleges. And as many of you, if you're familiar with higher education, we like to decentralize and re-centralize. So we are a re-centralized Marcom department. So it's been about 5 or 6 years now that we've been re-centralized together. And that'll come into play when I talk about what we encountered. So fun fact, if you'll see on the screen, our purple and gray field is considered one of the most unique in the US. So a little bit about me. I am the Director of Marketing. I work a lot in our creative services, handle the branding for the university. We are about a 10, 11 member team. So we're very, very small and we handle video, social media, web, PR, just about everything you can imagine that would need to be done creatively. It comes through our office. So we took this process, we undertook this process in 2017, and we wanted to do several things, as I'll get to. But digital asset management system became the bread and butter. It became the bedrock of what we were doing, and we were able to. It led to a renewed culture of brand management. So we'll talk about making the case, building a consensus, implementing an engagement plan, and using the DAM to leverage existing efforts. So this is what we thought it was going to be, the Wild West, right? We knew that we had some problems, but we were prepared. We knew that they were running wild, but we knew it was going to get pretty bumpy. We had some logo misuse. I'm going to show you the infamous trifold pamphlets. Has anyone seen those in any kind of capacity? Not great. You can see maybe 4 different kind of logos going on there. But, you know, we felt like we had it. We knew we had a handle on what was going on. We knew it was going to be bad, but maybe not that bad. We were wrong. We were not prepared. We were going to focus on branding issues, right? That's what we were going to do. But there was so much more that was wrong. So we may have died of dysentery. We came into the perfect storm. We had some major brand issues beyond those terrible, terrible trifolds. We had some internal issues that we were in no way prepared for and had not been prepared for in forming our department. We also had a deadline because we were going through a rebrand, a new logo launch, and new marketing templating and design. We were asked to reinforce brand guidelines that were not present. And we had a presidential mandate to fix the branding issues. We had internal communication issues. We were new. Nobody knew what we were doing or had trust or faith in us at that point. Like I said, we had a very small staff, and we had top level versus bottom level usage requirements. We knew that the people that were going to be using whatever system that we built, or what, at that point we weren't even sure. We knew that we were going to have student workers and graduate assistants all the way up to faculty members and maybe some administrators. So there was a gamut of users that were going to be doing it. We also had to have a lot of conversations, which I'm sure that you have too, about why can't we just use a free option? Why can't we just cobble together all of these things? Why do we need to focus on this and spend money? We had some IT issues that thankfully have now been resolved all these years later. They've put a lot of effort into it. But at the time, we did not have the IT backing. We didn't have the technology to do something that was robust that we could have living and breathing here on campus. And we did not have a budget. They put us in a little house. We had about 10 people in that house, but we didn't have anything else. So how are we going to solve this? Well, we had to start talking about our feelings, which people who know me know that that is not my favorite thing. But we had to figure out what went wrong. What were people's pain points? It felt like a little bit of, at first, that we were kind of walking 2 steps backwards because we already knew we had problems. Why do we need to talk about more problems? But what we were able to do by starting at this very grassroots level is to start gaining that trust that we didn't have. We were able to talk to them, but also more importantly, listen to them. We had problems on campus. We knew the overall problems and we knew the view from the top down from the administration, but we really didn't understand the bottom up. So that's what we focused on first. We went on a listening tour. I did face-to-face needs assessments for faculty, executives, administrative assistants. If anybody I think here will tell you administrative assistants around the world. If you need to know something, ask them. And so that was getting the information from not just those people that made the decisions, but those people that were doing the work, that were actually going to be logging into the system and making templates and downloading things. And so it was important for us to hear where those pain points are. We also did a visual audit, as you can see from those trifolds, it's a small part, so we could understand particularly where those branding issues were coming from and why. So when we talked to people, what it really did, I think, for us too, was give us an it was kind of uplifting in the middle of all of this craziness, because you find out that a lot of the issues are not because people don't want to do the right thing, but they don't have access to it, or they're doing as best they can. So we were really able to take a look and say, okay, not just what do we want from a dam, but what do we need from it, because we need to solve these issues. And that really helped us when we were looking at writing the RFP and coming up with our must-haves. We had an actual use case that we could refer to on those needs. So we researched both our stakeholders and we reached out to vendors. We got more educated ourselves on what products were out there and what was feasible for what we needed and wanted. And that took about a year, but at the same time, we were doing some other things as well. If I could have a takeaway from this time period, was probably the best way to start for us, because we gathered so much information that we were able to use and still continue to use to this day on how to make this the best possible. We had time to define pain points. We were able to do real outreach and engagement to people across campus in a real effective way. We wanted and realized that it was possible to make a culture change and attach it to our rebranding efforts and to our launch of the dam. And so we really made this much more than just launching a system. We decided we were gonna, if we were gonna change, we were gonna go what we call in the South, the whole hog, right? We were gonna do it all. We also were able to make palatable messages for departments, and not just those people that were really gung-ho about wanting to join on this movement, but for those that weren't. We developed something what I'll talk about later called the brand toolkit, and this was our marketing kind of packaging of all of these things that we came up with. We also spent, like we talked about, we educated ourselves, but we also had to educate each other, our bosses, on up and up and up about what we were doing, why was it important. I was able, by having all those talks with all these people around campus, to give them some really good feedback that was real, you know, and not just in the kind of overarching, you know, but actually really real uses, real changes that could be made immediately. And that helped kind of set that message up for when we asked for funding. And lastly, we were able to identify some cheerleaders, and without those cheerleaders, I don't think we would have been as successful. So that was great that we were able to do that. So I call this getting everyone on board. And at the time, and I'm sure that a lot of you know as well, it's maybe not always at the top down that are like, you know what, we need a dam. Sometimes it's those people that are, which I was at that point, I was designing and I realized it would be really helpful if we had this and I could save so much time. So at the time, I was not only educating my team, but also my boss and my boss's boss, and how to get those people on board when I didn't necessarily have that responsibility in my title. So we had to find a sweet spot in the engagement process. So that meant a lot of that education that I was going through and others were going through was really helpful. So I was able to have them give input in what was important, but not overwhelm them with a ton of information. And so being educated myself in that and taking that time, I was able to tell the difference. And when we weigh that, the input, having input and feeling heard, but not being overwhelmed with information, they responded a lot more positively. I also identified where people would be the best fit and put those in those areas so I could get the most from them. We decided early on that DAM was going to be the central focus, and we followed on from there. So preparing the hook, which is what I call what we ended up hearing a lot of information about what people need, but not necessarily what they need is what gets them excited. So there is a difference between that. As they say, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine taste better. If I'm asking you for all this commitment, both monetarily and with, you know, your political capital and all of this on how it's going to be a success. You need that kind of elevator pitch on getting people excited without them needing to know a lot about it. And for us, what we got feedback from was that people are excited about templating, and they wanted to have templating in the system. And so we were made sure that that was something that we included, and that got people excited. So we knew they were going to get their medicine, but they were also going to get that sweet taste. So at this point, we made the case for funding. It was tough. It's way tougher now. We spent a lot of time calculating and looking at what it would affect immediately. So we knew immediately we could measure twice, cut once on some very simple things that would give immediate feedback. So overall, the ROI is going to be a lot more. But what we were able to tell them is that we could take $100,000 immediately out of a marketing budget that was going to an outside agency, and we could pull that back in and redistribute that both in personnel and in other projects. And we knew immediately that that was something that by taking away some of the things that we were doing in-house, we would have the power, the personnel to do some things in-house that we weren't currently doing. So having that immediate savings, having something that we could show them that they could immediately latch onto was critical. We were able to embrace and understand our roles because we had been learning for so long, and we had been very clear about what those pain points we were trying to solve were. And again, we had our cheerleaders at this point. They knew that they were going to get their problem solved. So we had people in different roles on campus that were backing us and making that case for us as well. So it wasn't just us. We were future focused, so we were able to paint a picture where all these things were solved, money was being pulled back in, we could solve these problems. So that was a lot easier to give than it was to say, here are all our problems and here's the things you made us do and try to make us solve, and now we need this in order to do it. And so we got our pitch right. You know, we painted the picture of the future that we had been working for. So let's get to some exciting parts, I think. This is when we started building. We were actually going to make something. We'd been learning and talking quite a bit up until now, and we hadn't even done our RFP, you know. So this is when we did our RFP. We took all that information that we had gathered and all of that, and we built that out, and we started building our system. We went through our onboarding, our build. We had to look at our organization of assets, which were a mess, guys. They were a mess. And building those internal processes that we didn't currently have, because you can have the tool, but without the processes, it doesn't work. And we needed to rebrand Marcom at the university. So this would become imperative to our future success. Then we needed a plan that would systematically roll out our new system and services that we were already doing. We just didn't package them well and people didn't know about them, while creating a culture of collaboration. What we came up with was our communications toolkit. This was branded as a training. We do something called every third Thursday, so people can sign up for small groups. We do one-on-one training, we do webinars, we have print materials. I'm working on a bigger video collection right now of some of the training on different areas. So we wanted them to know that we are there. Here are the things that we have available right now that we do for you, can do for you. We can train you, we can give you tips, we can, so we're showing you we're being proactive. So before you come to me and I'm like, you can't do that, that's horrible, I can actually show you why you can't do that. I'm working on a new one called, can you do that with the logo, yes or no? And so we make it fun, we make it interactive. I did before this year do small group lunches where people came and a lot of times they were, you know, our admins. They were not necessarily, I'm not sitting with the bigwigs here to having conversations. We're talking about, you know, what's happening grassroots level. How can we do this better? How can we save money? The amount of money I saved by showing people how to use the portal, how to interact with our office better, get information about how to design something so it mails properly. We've saved so much money. It's amazing. I love talking about mail too. So but that's a different topic. Part of what we're doing and what we worked really, really hard on and we thought a lot about was our BearShare brand portal. So our brand portal is the bedrock. This is where success lives, I think. They're able to log on with their university credentials, go in there, pick what they want, and we made it very clear on how to navigate it, and it makes sense to people on campus. We, you know, our taxonomy, we spent a lot of time on that back end stuff, but we had been educating ourselves and talking to people. So when we got to this point, we knew what we were doing. It wasn't new at that point. So we designed it so someone could have very low technical knowledge and be able to get through it. It lessened the requests and help inquiries from my office. We made sure it was single sign-on. That was important for us. And we encouraged feedback. So there's something on here on BearShare where you can get feedback. Our website, let's see, you can get feedback. When I talk to people anytime, I ask for feedback and I talk to them about how you started us on this process and made it successful. I need your help to continue to be successful. So they're a partner with us and we're no longer sort of we are a gatekeeper, but we don't present ourselves as gatekeepers when it comes to brand. So just a quick timeline here on what we were doing as I've been talking about this. As you can see, we had a lot of build-up time, and then 2017 we kind of started going forward really quickly. So this is our multi-step plan that we built for our rollout, and we have our system implementation and our admin training. So we were doing those at the same time. And then we had upper level user training. So that was branching out a little bit more to some of our designers and stuff that weren't necessarily in central office. And then our initial template creation, and that was training not just our designers, but some other people as well. And then we had our 3 phases, and I talk about at the end, we continue to do these 3 phases in a smaller version, but we have a campus introduction of the toolkit of all of these services and everything that we've been doing. And then a little bit after that, we have the DAM campus training. And so we put the campus introduction of everything that we wanted to change because it was important that they see it as it was unified. It wasn't just like, here's the portal and then here's all this other stuff we're doing too. It was integral to it. So what we were able for DAM at that point was to really hone in on, okay, do we need to talk about what your specific needs are for your department? Do you have feedback from me? It was a much more a closer interaction. And then communication training, and that goes till the end, as you can see, because we continue to do that. I do trainings, we do trainings all year long on a variety of subjects. I like to show this little ruler because it doesn't have to be something that is really outlandish in order for it to be something that's really successful. And for us, this little ruler that just gives them some, vector versus raster, and it has our hex codes and all these things, and they're able to take it away, and I send it to people. It gets sent through onboarding, when they onboard, and all kinds of things. It's been a really great feedback and just a really great kind of thing that I can hand out to them to keep it top of mind. So as I was talking about our DAM campus training, we did live webinars, small group one-on-one, written in web training. It was just, I wanted to be available to them. I wanted them to understand it, and I wanted them to know that their feedback was important. So we started building our website on that, where we had plenty of chances for them to go and give us feedback at every step. Communication training, as I said, it's driven by, the topics are driven by the people on campus. So we have what I call the big sandwich, and it's about creative projects and how to build them. That was important to some people, but then, we have all kinds of stuff, how to print, what printing means, digital printing, just anything you can imagine. So it's related to it, but we started reaching out to where their pain points were and really addressing that. But because we've got the basis is our dam, it really is just so much bigger than we originally had thought it would be. So what do we do now? I think we're almost, yeah, okay, got a few minutes. So yeah, what about now? That sounds great, but did it all crash and burn after the first year? No, but that's because we continue to do step 1, 2, and 3 every year. For us, we go on a semester basis, so a lot of our hires, although they go throughout the year, a ton of our hires come through in the summer, and we do what I call my dog and pony show. Okay, I have myself and Erica Rubel, my partner in crime here, and we go out to all of the talks that we can do, and we bring all of the information. We bring our cheat sheets for people, our guides, our little rulers, and we talk to people, and we give them free posters and pennants, and welcome them out, which we would do anyway, but it's a great opportunity for us to say, and by the way, this is something you can log on to. Here's our brand portal. You can download logos, you can download photos if you need something for a presentation or to put on your syllabus. You can do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from anywhere, not just campus. You don't have to ask my permission. If you find it in there, you have permission to use it, is what I tell them. And that's a really great positive thing to say to someone, especially when they don't know how to do things. And I'm like, oh, and by the way, if you have questions about printing and mailing, or how you get through purchasing in order to get stuff that's related to creative services or marketing or anything like that, here's my business card, call me. So it's that personal touch, and we do it over and over and over again. If we had just done this once through implementation, it would not continue to be successful. I will say I would like to end with the fact that when we pivoted to remote working, having this in place and having so many people that knew about it and used it all the time and were able to get what they needed, we were not the ones with the problem. Our area wasn't. There were so many other places on campus that were like, well, you need to be on campus in order to access this. And so there was a lot of struggle. But for our area, we had set something up where there was redundancy in place, and people didn't need to even contact us a lot of times to get what they needed immediately, especially when they're going online and they have virtual backgrounds and they need all these things, and they were just able to get it. So, yay us. We were really excited about that. So thank you. That concludes my presentation. I hope that you got some value out of it, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, Kimberly, how fun. And I'd like to say that we had a question come in about, if you took the ruler and stood it up and down, how big was the big sandwich? But actually, I made that up, so. And I bet you've had to reorder those rulers more than once. What a great idea, and it's such a lovely gathering point for a lot of information. So rulers lead us to an interesting question that came in about measurement. You opened your presentation by sharing with us that there was a mandate, if you will, or certainly an executive initiative to get this done and stop this worry about brand security, about inefficiency, reduce the redundancy and costs. And now you're in a position to look back on that meeting, which you probably said in scratching your head, or multiply scratching your head. Do you think the executive office is aware of your success, and if so, how?
Yes, they are. We make them aware.
Okay.
So we take.
They get the yardstick, right? They get the yardstick, right? Not no ruler thing here.
We do a quarterly update for them, and we give them a lot of reports based on the system. And we are able to have some measurements that we set out. That we say, these are the things that would be helpful for you guys to understand on the usage.
Mhm.
And then, so we have a quantitative, but we also have qualitative because we're continuing to talk to people and get feedback from them. And we also do visual audits. So we go through our VP, we quarterly update them so they're aware.
Yeah.
And those that backed us from the beginning were like, they're doing great. Look at the decision I made. It was awesome. So that works too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Unpack that word for us, visual audits.
Sure. So, I mean, maybe it sounds a lot fancier than what we actually do. We actually request materials from every area on campus, and we do, we lay them out, we look at it, we talk about what's on brand. We're always doing that and picking up things and having conversations, but we put a time to do that once a year, and we do, our team gathers and we look at that and we talk about our goals, not only for the toolkit and things we want to do, but just in general. And we use that visual audit as a way to kind of pull back once a year and look at, our successes and where we need to grow.
Mm-hmm. What a lovely phrase, and a best practice, of course, certainly for sustaining governance and nurturing the budget requests and evidencing success too. The focus of your presentation was largely on, we could loosely sort of say, operational and marketing content or assets, I'm sorry. There's such a wealth of material, whether it's in athletics or in the pedagogy of the university, where you might have guest lecturers. Is the system being used outside of the kind of marketing and operational dimensions of the university?
So it wasn't originally.
Mm-hmm.
But because we have had success, athletics is a good example of not being really interested in the beginning because they weren't sure if it was going to work, right? And that was okay. We stepped back from that, but we were able to bring them in at this point. And so we haven't pedagogically added
Mm-hmm.
materials, although I feel like that's probably the way that we're going.
Mm-hmm.
We have an excellent department that handles our instruction of instructors, right?
Yeah.
And so we're adding on areas as needed. We have a really strong core, and so people want to join in when there's a success that they can make sure happens. And so it's been great for that growth.
Nice. Well, when we come back next year, either in person, online, or both, I know we'll look forward to hearing your progress in the growth of the system, because I'm sure the progress will be there. And this is the moment when, were we to be together in person, we would have a lovely round of applause to say thank you for sharing your thoughts. Really appreciated. Continue your excellence in leadership. And thank you for joining us here at the Festival of DAM. For those of you who are going to be continuing on, please join the tech labs that will be going on this afternoon, and I'll have a chance to say hello a little later. We've got Stencil and Media Valet and then Celtra Tech Labs. They're terrific. We encourage your attendance. And again, Kimberly, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.